Tonight on Joy News Prime, if it is costing you more to buy goods and services, then it's because inflation has hit a record high of more than 19%, with transport and food inflation all recording rates of more than 22%. We'll get into the details shortly here on Joy News Prime. Also coming up, Attorney General is pushing for a by-election in Asin North as Supreme Court rules that James Jachekwason cannot hold himself as as MP for the area.
And I think that for all these legal gymnastics that have been employed by the lawyers for Asin North, perhaps a by-election should have been conducted long ago. And I, in my view, think that there should even nothing in the way of the Electoral Commission to declare the seat vacant.
Ifeankwanta Regional Hospital files a complaint at the Takrady police station of allegations of a missing or stolen baby leveled against staff of the hospital.
From interviewing the staff who were involved, there was nothing of that. So there's no stolen baby or lost baby.
We'll hear from the hospital and the mother of the 14-year-old at the center of the issue. And coming up in business with Beverly.
Economists urges government to reduce fertilizer prices to stabilize food inflation.
That is a 19.4% for the month of March 2022 and the 15.7% for the month of February 2022 is the highest since we started seeing an increase in rate of inflation between May and June.
And coming up later in sports with Oreku.
I will be talking about Samuel Titi, who is preparing to get ready for his first professional fight as a boxer.
Whether you are a senior professional, as I started talking, I told you I'm an amateur boxer and also a professional boxer because I fought a professional boxer at the Olympics. I fought Duke Reagan, he's a professional boxer, he has fought for. So I'm ready for the professional.
That's coming up in Prime Sports at 8:30. And later here on Joy News Prime, and Accra Magistrate Court issues a bench warrant for the arrest of Ni Ofe, a resident of Jamestown, dumping rubbish into running rainwater and failing to appear in court. We have details of these and more here on Joy News Prime. This is your home of independent, fearless, and credible journalism. Stay tuned in. Hello again, my name is Ernest Manu. Thanks for choosing us. The Attorney General, Godfred Yeboadame, says nothing stops the Electoral Commission from declaring the Asin North parliamentary seat vacant. This comment comes in the wake of a Supreme Court ruling that restrained the MP James Jachekwason from performing parliamentary duties until the determination of a case filed against him. A Cape Coast High Court in July 2021 nullified the election of Mr. Kwason after it found he owed allegiance to Canada at the time of filing nomination forms to contest the post. Now, Michael Ankumaninfa, a resident of the constituency who filed this election petition in January 2022, initiated another action at the Supreme Court, asking the Apex Court to enforce this High Court judgment. Now, the court on Wednesday agreed with him. Court correspondent Joseph Akable reports.
So Supreme Court judges Jones Doche, Mariam Owusu, Mensa Bonsu, Gertrude Tokonu, and Yoni Kulendi took the view that the MP should be restrained from performing parliamentary duties, while the other judges, Nene Amegacha and Agnes Doji, disagreed with that majority decision. The court said that the MP should no longer perform parliamentary duties or show up in Parliament or present himself as Member of Parliament for Asin North. The Attorney General believes this decision is in the right direction.
And I think that there ought to be even application of the law. There ought to be an equal application of the law. The same fate befell Adamu Dramani Sakande. He was not qualified at the time that nominations were opened, and we don't know what happened to him. He was subsequently declared ineligible, and for that matter, his seat was taken away. So there ought to be even application of the law. If it happened to Adamu Dramani Sakande of the MPP, yes, it also has to happen to the gentleman of the NDC who has also fallen foul of the same law. It means that as the High Court that had earlier on held, the seat for me, the people of Asin North will not be represented. And I think that we're enough for all these legal gymnastics that have been employed by the lawyers for Asin North. Perhaps a by-election should have been conducted long ago. And I, in my view, think that there should even nothing in the way of the Electoral Commission to declare the seat vacant. The High Court has ruled, given a judgment determining the status of the gentleman as not qualified to have stood for election, and had actually cancelled the election conducted in the Asin North constituency. And the Court of Appeal subsequently struck out his appeal for non-compliance with the rules of the Court of Appeal. So there's no appeal pending. And I think the way is clear. But of course, the Supreme Court has ordered an expedited hearing and determination of this matter. Yes, I believe that the Supreme Court hearing definitely will also affirm all the principles of law that I have indicated had early on been established by the courts of Ghana.
A member of the NDC legal team, Baba Jamal, disagrees.
The Supreme Court has given its ruling, but we vehemently disagree with their position. I think that it is a sad day for all of us, that if what it means is that Asin North is also not going to have representation in Parliament for as long as this case lasts. That is a sad situation, because there are precedents in this country. We all remember the case in Ayawaso, West Wagon, where the lady was allowed to stay in Parliament.
Frank Davis, however, believes that the decision is a step in the right direction.
The right of representation is not a structure by itself. The right of representation is steeped in law. You can't have an illegible person running around as a member of Parliament for a constituency when he is not. It obviously leads to a mutilation of the sovereign will of the people of Asin North. They are better off now without someone who is parading as a member of Parliament whilst he is not, whilst we await the decision of this court. The mere fact that they don't have to quote a member of Parliament at this time does not, in any event, strip them of what they are entitled to as citizens of this country. At any particular point in time, there will be a needed representation from the New Patriotic Party for the Asin North constituency.
This means that for now, the people of Asin North will be without a member of Parliament till the Supreme Court determines the substantive matter that has been filed. For joining us from the Supreme Court, my name is Joseph Akable.
So this is what has happened today in court, but let me bring you a recap of how the case has traveled so far from December 2020 all the way till today. We have been putting some data together on this. So in December 2020, James Jachikwason won the polls in Asin North, and later in that month, a resident, Michael Ankumanifa, petitioned the High Court. He alleges that Mr. Kwason had dual citizenship. He owed allegiance to Canada at the time he was filing his nomination to contest the parliamentary polls there. Then in January, the High Court restrained Mr. Kwason from holding himself as MP for the area. Later, in July 2021, the High Court nullified the Asin North polls and called for fresh elections, and the MP appealed to the High Court. But you remember that even in January, this played out in Parliament on the 9th of the 6th of January, the dawn of 7th of January. This was actually the issue that opened the 8th Parliament that generated a lot of controversy. The majority at the time prevailed on the Clerk of Parliament to dismiss the MP because they claimed that the court had ruled on the issue. But the minority insisted that cannot be done. Eventually, the Clerk of Parliament said whatever decision the MP James Jachikwason took at the time will be solely on him. The consequences will be on his hands only to deal with. Now, in July, the court then nullified the elections, and of course, he appealed this decision. Later in January 2022, Michael Nimfa filed the case at the Supreme Court. He wanted the Supreme Court to stop Mr. Kwason from performing parliamentary duties, essentially enforcing the High Court's judgment, which was given later, that was earlier in 2021. In March, the Court of Appeals struck out the appeal filed by Mr. Kwesen. And then today, the Supreme Court has ruled on the matter. But how did the court rule? Let me bring you details. So it was a 7-member panel, a majority of 5 deciding on this case. So it was a 5-2 decision. Justices Doche, Mariama Owusu, Gertrude Tokonu, Professor Henrietta Mensah-Bonsu, and Emmanuel Yoni Kulendi made up the 5 who decided in this case. And of course, we had 2 dissenting views, Justices Agnes Doji and Nene Amegache. And interestingly, the dissenting judges wrote individually. You'd want to read the full judgment on myjoyonline.com. And in fact, later at 9 p.m. today on PM Express with Evans Mensah, they're going to go into the details of the judgment. Very interesting reasons given, which will be subjected to a lot of analysis. But the court has ruled today that Mr. Nimfa, the court ruled that the case filed by Mr. Nimfa raises serious issues of allegations of constitutional breaches, among others. The court also held that greater hardship will be suffered by Ghanaians whose sovereign will be breached if the MP is not restrained. And if it eventually turns out that there was actually a breach. And the court says that the breach is incalculable and cannot be redeemed. So these are highlights of the case as it's traveled all the way from 2020 December till now. The full judgment is out on myjoyonline.com. At 9 p.m., Evans Mensah and his panel will be interrogating the issue. But back in the constituency, the constituents have been reacting to this development, and they seem split over the issue. Richard Kojunako has been speaking to some of them.
Debia in the Pasisia, woman brand and to Abasisia, Nade. The young woman show baby, one better. It's young Yari say, Ye Chamu, Yen Swomo Dakumpoda, Yanu Mobako, Sanya, one more call, Ye call 2020 election now, one much now wanting, no much in futuro, no mucha Adapano, Adapa and Twaba. Adapa and Twaba. It's woman Casa Majuma, one more yeno, one more yen will prom Hanum, and I bet so. And the bachelor almost saying Crawford to Abama. Mabu Crawford store down, and many part for my body, no compensation. Up to date, moon to me at the body, and see down and fair mamma. Now, sorry, I'll be a wabba Bebuan Sula, one person of a man pan over there, or Bebua, Minia, or my banner yet Timmy. Your man banner yet Timmy CCA. People are taking this Ghana as their own bona fide property, especially our judicial service. Osha, Shedia, or man CC Echo. O mine, one more fan say, or bona fide property. Eti Yabese, Yenu Anuma, Moya NDC for, Mamma NDC for, Papa, who don't know. San Yama Air Caution, say, Ebase, Ye Quaco to Ababima. Muna, Mama support to NDC, because NDC, and Ama, a sin of Ranum, I a sin of.
Yet, you break a sin, this is that. Ha, Yan, your pedigree, your poor beard, or baby, I'm wire. If it's young to me, go do a beard, not the beard. Blekuya ye dwadi ye dinyina aya basa ye hunu sonti do kwasi ono ana baba boye ase no for hante ono ana ye pen wo kradua ye pu obi awa ha ono ana ye pen
emra na ye ka masem sabam no kase said the court the ruling na bana we kire kan mani ka bi de mu mfaso a ye mene wo ye di hu mfaso nti we aba no me de me hu se atum papa se me an we se no be chin no kadia yes mran je adwuma saas do bi ko wi obi board na ya chimia obi hu a enya ne dia ba tu metu hu na waka na wachichirim na mran na ya adwuma ento meda court na se bebre.
And of course, you want to join Evans Mensah at 9 p.m. as they delve more into this. But away from the Supreme Court, let's talk about the economy now. Inflation has hit a record high of more than 19%, with transport and food inflation all recording rates of more than 22%. Isaac Ofeji of our research desk joins me in the studio with more on these figures and the latest report released by the Statistical Service today. So, I mean, transport, we understand, is leading in this particular report, but food inflation is quite dominant as far as the drivers are concerned.
Yeah, absolutely. So there you have it, a record high of 19.4%. in terms of year-on-year inflation. And we didn't just start from March, it started right from December 2021, you know, from an inflation rate of 12.6% in December to 13.6% in January this year. Then now we have, you know, a whopping 19.4%.
So there's been an upward trend.
Absolutely.
And I think that the government itself actually projected that inflation was going to go up even for the month.
So if you remember, we have an inflation target of 8 or plus or minus 2. And then if you are doing 19.4%, it means that we've gone up more than, we've doubled our targets within this period. Now, if you look at the next slide, which talks about, you know, the next slide talks about disaggregation of year-on-year inflation by divisions. And so just like you mentioned, the transport sector leading the inflation with 27.6%, meaning that if you should compare transport to the head-on inflation of 19%, the 27% is more than the general inflation figure that we are projecting.
And transport captures fuel as well?
Exactly. So if you have food and non-alcoholic beverage, which is also around 22%, housing, water, electricity, and gas, also above 22%. So, you know, simply put, you have transport, food, and the non-alcoholic beverages all recording inflation values higher than the normal, you know, 19% that we have about. So if you look at the next slide, this is very interesting. So this is food inflation. So we've been tracking this from 2019 to 2022. Okay. And then you realize that if you compare 2021 and 2022, within the same period that we are talking about, January 2021 to March, you could see that food inflation was dropping. But this year, the converse is true. It's been rising.
It's actually been on the rise from May 2021 all through till now.
So now where we have 22.4%, which is very, very high. Now let me mention some of the, you know, food inflation figures that have seen an increase. So if you look at oil and fats like this, inflation has gone up by more than 28%. Water inflation has gone up by 27%. Cereals and products, 25%. Vegetables, 23%. And we have fish and seafood, 23%. And if you look at soft drinks, recording 20% in March 2020.
And that actually reflects when you go to the mall. I mean,
absolutely,
the drinks are very expensive these days to buy. Kofi, thank you very much for bringing us those details. But in our Living Standard series, we have been looking at the cost of food. Here's an excerpt of our latest report.
I bought kenke for 3 cedis. The fish is from 6 to 10 cedis. I had to fast to manage the money I have. We are really feeling the pinch in this economy.
What I say, young ones is rough. Young ones is what do I am for no Mukobisa? I don't even pay for years.
When I buy 50 cedis worth of fuel, it's insufficient. All the political parties and the government, they are not concerned about us.
Let's do some more stories here on Joy News Prime. The medical director of the Efiankwanta Regional Hospital, Joseph Kojo-Tembil, says the hospital has lodged a formal complaint at the Takoradi District Police Station over allegations of a missing or stolen baby leveled against staff of the hospital. The family of the 14-year-old JHS student who allegedly delivered prematurely at the facility say the hospital has failed to give them access to the body of the baby who was declared dead barely 24 hours after delivery. The incident happened in March, but the regional hospital has denied the allegations. Here's an interview with the medical director of the Efiankwanta Regional Hospital, Joseph Kojo-Tembil.
Yes, indeed, something of that sort was brought to my attention, okay, from a radio program on Connect FM, somewhere around the middle of March, okay. We have, as a management, gone ahead to investigate, and our investigations point to a different thing altogether. So, from our records and from interviewing the staff who were involved, there was nothing of that sort. There's no stolen baby or lost baby. per our records. Our records show that a girl of 14 years came to hospital to abort. Not an induced abortion, not a criminal abortion.
Okay.
But she came to abort a fetus at 24 to 26 weeks of gestation. And I believe that it is the same fetus that they are claiming may have been lost or stolen. Okay? But I would also want to be very careful going into the details of the case that was reported, because the case is currently before the police.
Well, when you say the case is before the police, are you saying that you made a complaint?
We made a complaint to the police because we heard those allegations, and we want to put the matter to rest once and for all.
Well, the mother of the teenager, who only gave her name as Gifty, has disputed the claims of the hospital. She wants the matter investigated. She also spoke to me.
We went to the sawmill, but upon arrival, we were told she was in labor. And since they didn't have an incubator, we moved to Ifia Hospital, accompanied by a nurse. My My 15-year-old pregnant daughter, who had entered her 7th month, gave birth, and the child was put in an incubator. After visiting the baby twice, I left the hospital, only to return the next morning and to be told that the child had died. When I demanded to see the corpse, I was told I had to wait for a morgue assistant who never showed up.
Na wanya 6 months me ya wura 7.
6 months to 7.
Ni ya wura.
Into I don't know okan wo fi ana oye na de and then na Edru hospital hono.
Oh school na madam friend say. Ani murumure ni hu wo school wan di no me mama dan sam. Di me kwa na me ne call ayi so me hono. Ya kwa no mo say ya wo. No mo zo mo ni machine ni bi e wo wangu beta ni bi wo wa mo de ni be shim bi. Mama me kofa aka ba na yakwa yefia ngwanda mama nurse ni ba ko tan yakwa fia ngwanda
But na obana we din fian
oh 15
oh 15
acha
oh bema na oba ena mo ne
ko mama me koya ne card nyina mbode ba mama me koya ne card kura nyina oba
card na mo je o sen
card na me ba fi.
So that's the mother of the 15-year-old who gave me that interview. We made several attempts to get the police on this issue, but we've not been successful. When we do, we'll bring you details from the police. But the medical director of the Efia Regional Hospital, Joseph Kojotambil, joins me via Zoom for more on this issue. Thank you very much, sir, for your time here on Joy News Prime. So in that interview she gave me, she raises a number of issues that we'll need you to clarify. She alleges that it was initially disputed that her daughter had even delivered at the hospital when this matter was brought to your attention. Did that indeed happen?
Oh, where? Who disputed that a girl of that age didn't deliver? Nobody disputed that. You see, I am listening to the interview. I'm wondering what the motive is. You see, if she wanted answers to what happened, I believe that the hospital has a management which she could have contacted. Then the management team is led by me. And if she had contacted us, we would have given her all the answers.
Well, she tells me that they actually have, but we'll come to that because there were other issues she raised with me. Some of the issues which you had told me about in the earlier interview you granted me. Now, Doc, was there a point where you had to intervene in the dispensing of medication to her daughter because it emerged that her records were not in the hospital system? Was there ever a point that happened?
Is that who intervened?
That you and the other hospital administrators.
Absolutely not. That's absolutely false. You see, let me give you a chronology of events. The teenager in question came to Efiankwanta on the 1st. And I have the records here. We ran an electronic system. Okay, I've printed out electronic records. They are with me here. And anybody can cross-check. We've given these to the police as well. She came on the 1st to deliver. I only got aware of this issue on the 12th of March at around 10 p.m. when she had gone to a radio station to make damning allegations against staff. And you see, my pain is actually with the radio station that granted her the interview without recourse to anybody from Efiankwanta. But we'll leave that one aside. I think that's a different matter. But listening to the woman, it looks like she keeps changing the goalposts. As of now, I don't know what the whole motive for this story is. Because I heard elsewhere that she said people had asked her to pay money, which she didn't have, and they didn't take care of her baby. Later, she comes to say that the baby was taken care of, and she came and she was told the baby had died. Honestly, all these things don't add up.
Okay, Dr. Tambil, because of time, just help us answer these few questions. Did the baby die at the facility?
Absolutely, yes.
Was the baby buried thereafter?
Yes, and you see, when the baby passed, and the baby passed a little over 3 hours after it was expelled, okay? And this was a baby that weighed 0.5 kilograms. And the estimated gestational age was 24 weeks by the specialist pediatrician. Okay? So this baby's chance of survival was right from the beginning was less than 50%. Okay? Now, this woman leaves the hospital, and for 3 days she wasn't found. She was asked to go and do the records for the baby. Mind you, there were two people here. Her daughter, who is the mother of this fetus we're talking about.
Yeah, the teenager. Yeah.
Yes, and the fetus itself. So she was asked to go and make records for the fetus, which she never did. She never did. She never went back to the NICU.
Well, she disputes this. She says that she actually saw the baby being put in an incubator. She went home and came back the next day, only to be told that the baby had died. And upon request, because she wanted to see the body of the baby, she was told she had to pay some money for those in charge of the mortuary to lead her there. Is that indeed the case? Is that what happened?
Like I told you, all these things, like I told you, the story keeps changing. And I'm wondering what the motive is. I'm wondering what she wants. Because when they came to my office, okay, what they were looking for was to sit down and negotiate with hospital. And I was asking them, what are we negotiating about?
When you say they wanted to negotiate, exactly what are you talking about? What were their demands?
But they're asking us to compensate the little girl for the loss of her child.
Well, I put that question to her, and she denied that. But very quickly, Doc, where was the baby buried?
Within the premises of the hospital. And the person who did it is alive and well. And so at any point, if push comes to shove, the body can be exhumed, DNA analysis can be done. You see,
but is it standard practice to go ahead to bury anybody at all without the consent of the family?
Well, that is an issue to be interrogated later.
But you are the professional. I mean, you are superintendent of the hospital. Does it ever happen as part of your operations? Is it standard that at any point in time you have the right to go ahead to bury anybody because of whatever circumstance?
No, we have a standard procedure with regards to adults. I think there's a little bit of a lacuna when it comes to preterm fetuses at that age, because they're so tiny, and it's difficult to keep them in a mock fridge.
But even if the procedure isn't clear with babies, isn't it Isn't it just courteous, because it's a human life you're talking about here, that the family is indeed informed, they know where the baby is buried, and then there's a proper closure.
Absolutely, you are absolutely right, and I won't hold brief for any staff who may have breached any standard procedures. I won't do that. But you see, this matter could have been laid to rest right from the beginning.
But I'm interested in knowing who ordered for the baby to be buried. Did the nurses take...
Like I said, the police is handling this matter, and we will get to know who did what. Okay? But suffice it to say that no baby was missing. No baby was lost where the baby is.
Okay.
In that it is.
And finally, since you reported this to the police, has there been any invitation or interrogation of your staff that you're aware of?
Oh, yes. Yes.
How many?
Well, I can't give those details, but I know the police are in touch with staff. They've gone to the police station several times. So they are on it. To that extent, I can say, but I can't give details.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kojo Tambil. That's the medical officer in charge, the medical director in charge of the Efiankwanta Regional Hospital. You're watching Joy News Prime with me, Ernest Manu. We're taking a short break. When we return, we'll bring you some more stories. Please stay with us. Thanks for staying with us here on Joy News Prime. Now, the Ghana Police Service has arrested Osman Bustani in connection with a viral video in which he was captured threatening the life of a shop owner. The suspect is in the police custody and will be taken through the due process of law. And as Joy News understands, according to the police, before the arrest, the Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Ekufu Dampare, reached out to the victim yesterday, Tuesday, 13th April 2022, via a telephone call, and he seemed traumatized by the incident. Upon the IGP's instruction, the victim has been given psychological support by a clinical psychologist from the police hospital.
Somebody in the shop. Why you take this thing down here? Take this. Huh? Come out. Hey, well, I will get you here. Come on. I beg. Come out. Bob, come out. Yeah. Why you take video?
What you're watching there is the reason why the Accra Magistrate Court has issued a bench warrant for the arrest of Niofe, a resident of Jamestown, for failing to appear in court. Now, the warrant was issued on Tuesday morning by the court after the culprit failed to avail himself in court to face prosecution for allegedly flouting Section 56A of the Public Health Act 2012, Act 851, and the sanitation bylaws of the Accra Metropolitan Assembly. Niofe was captured in a video dumping solid waste from a sack into floodwaters at Gamashi in Accra, which has since gone viral. The court was presided over by Mr. Kojo Amua Hagan, and he issued a warrant and asked the police to produce the suspect before the court to face prosecution. Let's do some politics now. The Council of Elders of the New Patriotic Party in the Ashanti region claimed the party's stronghold has weakened due to the failure of its regional executives to respect the structures. The recent NPP election for polling station executives was characterized by conflict and controversies in some constituencies in the Ashanti region. Meanwhile, the regional party office has presently been locked up, affecting administrative operations. That's the following report.
The Ashanti Regional NPP party office is presently locked up, affecting administrative operations. In April last year, landlady of the rented party office at Krofom in Kumasi moved in to lock up the office over alleged failure of the NPP to renew rent. The office was later opened after talks between the interest parties, but the facility has been locked once again with no immediate known reasons. Chairman of the Council of Elders, Reverend Mark Edujemfi, says it has been difficult for party members to put their grievances before leadership in the region. He says the regional executives have over the years failed to involve the council in party issues. Reverend Edujemfi is blaming the leadership executives for the recent upsurge in internal wrangling and factions within the party.
Everybody, this is an open secret. Everybody knows that we are having a problem to have administrative setup. You know, I'm speaking like this. Not so many people can speak like the way I'm speaking, because why? I'm 83 years old. I don't want post. I don't want anything. I just love the party. So I'm saying this, and people may not like it. Some people may not like it. I couldn't care less. You know, I just want all these youth that are coming to know that we have to do the right things. Otherwise, the consequences we will not like it. What we need to do now is to get back to the structures of the party in Ashanti region. If we start from there, and I can assure you, the next time I speak to you like we are doing now, you find peace and harmony and tranquility within the party.
According to Reverend Edujemfi, the elders are working assiduously to resolve all internal issues inhibiting the smooth running of the party. He says though they are not being paid, they have to intervene for the love of the party.
So far as they are concerned, they are doing their work. But I'm not happy. I'm not happy. Because they're supposed to, you know, allow us to do our bit. Part of the structures is for the Council of Elders to deal with the issues affecting members all over the country, all over Ashanti region. But people come here. This place is supposed to be my working place. Some come to my house. They don't even know where to go to. Council of Elders, what do? We're supposed to solve all the issues within the party. The first time we have been given that chance is this time, only this time. All the years. Yesterday somebody asked me this question, same question. He said, where were you before all these things started? Nobody invited me to do anything. But we want to tell listeners that from now on, you will hear from me.
Meanwhile, the former presiding member of the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly, Abraham Pwedi, has described the regional executives as failures and undeserving to retain their positions.
Now, fishermen, fishmongers and canoe owners along Ghana's coastal regions are kicking against the closed season announced by the Ministry of Fisheries and Aquaculture. According to them, because of the current economic hardship, the closed season will only bring untold hardships to fishing communities. The fisherfolk are also accusing the ministry of allowing the cartel to take over the distribution of premixed fuel to the London beaches. They say the cartel at the district assemblies sell the premixed fuel to them at an exorbitant price, making life unbearable for them. They have been addressing a news conference in Cape Coast.
We have spent our life doing fishing because that's what our forebears left us. That is what we have used to educate our children. We used to go with gallons to petrol stations to buy fuel for our fishing canoes. But today, we don't get any when we go there. We have gone for government loans and have to pay. If we are to stay home, how are we going to pay for these loans? We, the women, are worried and frustrated. We would not accept the close season anymore.
There are things that are not going right with our fishing, and we need to say it as it is before our industry collapses. Fishing is what our forefathers left us. We did not experience any change in the cruise season last year. We, the elders of the land, were not consulted when decisions were taken. Look at the conditions in which we find ourselves. We have lost our livelihood, only to hear again that the government is coming again with the close season.
The Central Regional Coordinating Council has begun consultations with the fisherfolk in the region to understand their challenges and how government can address them. At a forum, the fishermen asked government to reconsider its decision to move the close season from May to July. They contend that moving it from May to July will further deepen their woes. Central Region correspondent Richard Kojinyako was there in our report.
The fishermen along Ghana's coast have been criticizing the Fisheries Ministry over what they describe as lack of consultation with the people that are directly affected by government policies. They indicate that the 2021 close season didn't change much, but they were willing to continue until the ministry issued a release indicating the 2022 close season has been slated for July.
Some people who so what Peter wasn't believe my na say so a fair domino. Ye a jumano. Say my so yan try adwin. Na book women some no adoso. Minister.
If government is implementing a policy, they should consult the fisherfolk, the very people the law would affect. Every fisherman knows that when it was implemented in May, June, it was okay. We've got good catch and got some money to settle our bills.
Last year, Obia Kuabia can no call one pound a day. Them closes in a wayan war, July, or boy, Hena. A fourth year queen, I be a man and cut us or boy, Hena.
Last year's close season didn't help us, and we're not looking forward to repeating the same thing. We knew they wouldn't have implemented a close season this year because of the prevailing high times the world finds itself. Even the president knows that times are hard.
And which Kakaba Gano do Oyagana has Umponko, Amnamenina, and which Naba. Then Kinim da film paddy, what you betcha.
We thought there wouldn't be any close season this year, but if they won't consider taking it off, why don't they consult us before the implementation?
Say, you must go back, May, June now. Nay, Asanoko. Nachi Bia, or how you last year, or what's on Yellow.
And nam no sisi ama aye nam ne boyeti mbese afun yenye sika ye de be ye dwuma ena mbeyifu na asompo a wo prekesin.
Fish has become very expensive. We need money to inject into our business. We help our fishermen, and we are pleading with you to help us improve our businesses so we can support our husbands.
Yes, no there. Ma wo mame a wo ngina wona wo makokoyima fo yenhyem. Kakra ama mbeyinufu tuya school fees na Showbiz na trunk na yesu ye push.
It is not only the close season, but the erratic supply of premix fuel to the fisherfolk and a cartel that has been hoarding the product and selling it to the fisherfolk at exorbitant prices. They want government to intervene to avert confusion at the various landing beaches.
We cost 18 million. In fact, 7 gallons.
Now we are buying 7 gallons for 180 Ghana cedis, 150 Ghana cedis. It's become difficult even getting the premix fuel. The 7 gallons should ordinarily have been 51 Ghana cedis. We have learned that because of the erratic situation, that's what is causing the hoarding and the hikes in the prices. The fishing business now is not like the days of old where one would go fishing and bring home loads of fish. Central Regional Minister Justina Marigodasan assured the fisherfolk that through the engagement their concerns would be dealt with adequately by government.
I would say that they are very happy about the meeting, and we are going to continue. It's not going to be business as usual. We meet and that is all because the regional minister wants to have an engagement with them. It's something we really want to do to help solve problems that are confronting fishermen and women in the region. So we're going to do this very often. And I know their meeting days are on Tuesdays. I'll find time to go to them when they're having meetings and then be talking about things that will help.
On the same day, the leadership of the canoe owners held a news conference kicking against this year's close season, saying it will further impoverish the coastal dwellers since times are hard. Reporting for Joy News, Richard Kwejonya-Akon, Cape Coast.
And here in the studio, my name is Ernest Manu. We're taking a break, but coming up in Showbiz, the backstory behind the breakup of 4x4.
For the motion, I said that I think that time the group wasn't doing too well. So doing our separate solo projects wasn't going to help the brand 4x4.
For Expo.
Yes. So for a very long time, the defunct actually worried a lot of industry players, and we never knew what actually got them to separate. But for the first time, Coded was talking about it. He was on the Daybreak Hit Show, which is the morning show on Hit FM, and he was telling Andy Dusty why. And this is the reason Coded gave for the group going defunct.
Once upon a time, we had a meeting years back. As a group for myself, Prince, and then Captain Planet, that we're going to do our solo project. So when we had that meeting, right there, I was the only odd one among the two that I wasn't for the motion. I said that I think that time the group wasn't doing too well. So doing our separate solo projects wasn't going to help the brand 4x4. So I think we should rather push the brand to the top again. So when Planet comes out of the group and coughs or, put up a single or whatever, it's going to fly. If Prince comes out with a single, it's going to fly. Myself is going to do this. It's going to do good. So I think we should do it that way. But the two of them were they were good, that we should still do it, solo projects and stuff like that. So around the same time, I wasn't able to, for 2 years, I didn't release a single or a song or whatever. So it was just the two of them back and forth. Till, your friend is saying, I made a decision that I was going to come with my first single that was It Pain Them, what you just played. So that was just how it all started with, your friend is saying, doing our solo projects. Yes, I didn't second it because I thought at that time the group was not doing too well and we needed to put our acts together and then, we push the brand to the top before we do our solo projects.
Okay, so at that meeting,
right?
Were there arguments?
Oh, it wasn't. There was no argument. It was back and forth. Yeah, I'll say we had to go back and forth before, because with me, they'll say I'm the hard nut. So I really, tried to talk it out with them, but it looks like they were good to do it. The solo songs or projects and stuff like that. So.
So he was really never for it?
Yes, he was never for it. We are just praying that their solo projects, they will finish it and they'll come back as a group.
Because they were just wonderful together. Really just like Prior. Wonderful group. They went solo and it wasn't really going too well. But Dada Damas.
Well, that's a new solo from
Wuta as well.
Yes. But I can tell that the song that you are also loving, which everybody is loving, is Kweku the Traveler by Black Cherry, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the song of
the moment.
Yeah.
You know that's okay. So that's the tweet from Shazam. Shazam has actually tweeted congratulating Black Sharif that Kuku the Traveler is the most Shazam song in the world.
Wow.
Yes, yes. And you know his court issue is also the court.
That's lingering too.
Yes, it's also lingering. But we have gotten, a confirmation, somewhat confirmation that the court issue might not be infringing his performance right, because a lot of people thought it will get to the point where he wouldn't have to perform again. But this is Sadiq telling Andy Dossi on Daybreak Head Show.
Stands now. The court hasn't injected Sheriff from performing or doing anything, so he can perform. He has 8 days to first and foremost enter an appearance, to admit that he's received the summons and he has a defense or not. So as it stands now, within those 8 days, first and foremost, he can play any show he's built to play on, including the Easter shows. So it's not right that he can't play shows and that people that have given him money, he can play. Beyond that as well, when he even enters appearance, usually there's a 10-day window he has to file a defense, pending the decision of the courts. So the 8 working days plus a 10 days to file a defense, these are days to work with, basically. If they played well. So within this period, he can play any show that he's built to play on.
That is some good news for him, but he definitely needs to get this out of the way completely.
Because now he's an international and a world artist.
He doesn't need these controversies at this point. IB, thank you very much for bringing us Showbiz. But that's our show for tonight. We're glad that you could join us. We enjoyed your company, and you can log on to myjournline.com. You'll find many stories there. Prime Business with Beverly is up next. Please stay.